Linda Raschke turned 25,000 into $1.2 million in 18 months. Not by predicting the future, she got the direction wrong 40% of the time. The difference? While most traders are playing checkers with the market, she's 15 moves deep in three-dimensional chess in the middle of a hurricane, and she's winning. October 19th, 1987, Black Monday. The market didn't just fall, it had a psychotic break. The S&P 500 collapsed 22% in a single day. For most traders, it was financial Armageddon. Orders slipped, liquidity vanished, prices gapped in ways that made charts look like heart monitors flatlining. But Linda? She was already 3 moves ahead, on a board most couldn't even see. She didn't try to catch falling knives or call the bottom. She played the tape like a surgeon, taking small, precise cuts while others swung for the fences and struck out. By the end of that day, she hadn't just survived. She'd profited from chaos that destroyed veterans with decades more experience. Welcome to Trading Psychology Stick, where we decode the minds of legendary traders. Quick disclaimer: nothing here is financial advice. These are psychological insights from studying the masters. Your capital, your decisions, your responsibility. The market doesn't whisper, it roars. Screens flicker like lightning, numbers flash and vanish like raindrops on glass, and you can almost feel the tension pressing against your chest. Most traders, in moments like these, freeze or flinch. They tighten their grip on the mouse, widen their eyes at every tick, and pray to be spared the next wave. But not Linda Raschke. She sits in the same storm you do, same red candles, same manic swings, but her hands are steady. She isn't trying to tame the storm, because she knows you can't. She isn't trying to outrun it either, because that's impossible. Instead, she's focused on the board in front of her chessboard. Every candle a square, every setup a piece, every risk a calculated exchange. Decades of short-term trading have taught her something most traders never realize. The game isn't about predicting where the storm will strike next. It's about knowing exactly which move to make when it does. You're here because you want that edge. You're tired of chasing hot tips, of cluttered charts filled with a graveyard of indicators, of feeling like every trade is a coin flip with your future on the line. You want to move like a grandmaster, deliberate, composed, unshaken. In the next 13 moves, we'll step inside Raschke's mind and dissect how she plays this game, from her lightning-fast short-term strategies to the way she rewires her own psychology to stay sharp under fire. But this isn't going to be a dry list of rules. You'll feel the storm, you'll see the board, and you'll understand why each piece is exactly where she wants it. Because the truth is, markets will always be chaos. Your job isn't to calm them, it's to learn the patterns within that chaos and exploit them before they disappear. And when you've mastered that, you'll realize something even more powerful. The edge isn't in the market, it's in you. So take your seat at the board. The first move is about to begin. And in this game, every move counts. Move 1. Embrace the storm, master the board. The first thing Linda Raschke will tell you is that the market owes you nothing. Not clarity, not fairness, not a second chance. It will move as it pleases, dragging you into whipsaws, fake-outs, and reversals until you're dizzy. To her, this chaos isn't an enemy. It's the playing field. And like a chessboard in the middle of a hurricane, the pieces are always moving. Your job is not to stop the wind, but to understand how to move in it. Picture this. It's a Wednesday morning in late autumn. The S&P futures are already swinging before the opening bell. A lesser trader might stare at the 5-minute chart like it's a live grenade. But Linda? She's already mapped her day before the market even woke up. Overnight ranges, key support and resistance, volatility conditions. Each detail is another square on her chessboard. She knows her openings, the safe squares, the traps to avoid. And when the bell rings, she doesn't flinch. She makes her first move, not out of hope, but out of a calculated plan she's rehearsed 1,000 times. The storm metaphor isn't just poetic, it's practical. In the real market, everything you think is fixed can change in an instant. The perfect setup can crumble, and the cleanest chart pattern can dissolve into noise. Linda's edge comes from accepting that truth. While other traders panic at the first unexpected wave, she anticipates it. She treats volatility like an opponent's aggressive opening, dangerous if you're unprepared, but full of opportunity if you know the counters. In her early years, she learned this the hard way. A single morning could wipe out a week's worth of gains because she clung to a bias or refused to adapt. It took losing, painful, humiliating losing, to realize the market wasn't here to reward her analysis. It was here to test her adaptability. She began treating each day like a tactical exercise. Spot the conditions, choose the right setup, execute with precision, and, most importantly, walk away when the board tilts against you. Think about the last time you held a losing trade, secretly hoping the market would come back to your entry. That's the moment you've already lost, not just in points but in position on the mental board. Linda never waits for mercy from the market. She moves to the next square, the next opportunity, without looking back. That detachment is her survival skill, the reason she can stand in the same storm that destroys others and still finish the day in the green. But here's what most traders miss. Knowing the storm exists is one thing. Learning to execute the right moves under its pressure, that's where the real game begins. And every chess master knows, the opening moves determine whether you control the game or spend it defending. Move 2. Set the tactical mind before the bell. Linda Raschke doesn't walk into a trading day with the swagger of someone who knows what will happen. She walks in like a general stepping onto a battlefield, maps studied, contingencies prepared, and an opening plan ready to deploy. Her tactical mind isn't built on prediction, it's built on preparation. The goal of the opening moves is simple. Establish control of the board before the market's chaos can dictate your next step. To her, every trading day starts with a reconnaissance mission. She scans the overnight action like a chess player studying the opponent's pre-game moves. What's the range? Where did price find acceptance? Where did it reject? She notes the day's potential battlefields, key support and resistance levels, volatility bands, prior day's highs and lows. These aren't just lines on a chart. They're the edges of the chessboard, the terrain where each piece will fight for position. They see a breakout and dive in, or a drop and panic sell, but Linda has her openings mapped out in advance. If the market surges into resistance, she's ready to fade the move if the setup aligns. If it breaks cleanly with volume, she's prepared to join the momentum, but only if her predefined entry conditions are met. She doesn't force the market to fit her bias. She allows her plan to bend to the market's first move, then responds with precision. Her tactical mind is a safeguard against the two great enemies of the open: overreaction and hesitation. Overreaction is jumping into the first flashy move without confirming the setup. Hesitation is freezing in fear and missing the high probability entries. Linda avoids both by committing to her playbook before the game starts. And because she's rehearsed these scenarios so many times, her actions are fast, but not frantic. She compares it to a chess grandmaster's opening repertoire. In chess, you don't improvise your first moves. You execute openings you've practiced for years, moves that create a foundation for the mid-game. In trading, Linda's openings are her go-to setups for different volatility environments. They're not rigid scripts, they're flexible frameworks. This balance between structure and adaptability is what allows her to trade with confidence while others are still guessing. Picture the trader who enters within the first 5 minutes of market open, only to regret it within 30 seconds. That's a symptom of playing without an opening strategy. You're reacting to noise, not executing a plan. Linda's tactical mind ensures she's never a prisoner of impulse. Her first moves are deliberate, even if that means staying flat until the board reveals the right opportunity. But mastering the open is just table stakes. The real money is made or lost in the lightning-fast moments that follow, when hesitation costs fortunes and speed without precision leads to disaster. Move 3. Master the fast game with surgical precision. Speed is a double-edged sword in trading. Move too slow. An opportunity slips away before you even click the mouse. Move too fast, and you're in trades you don't fully understand, bleeding out before you've even realized what's happening. Linda Raschke has built her career on knowing exactly when to strike in the fast game and when to sit perfectly still. Remember Black Monday? That day she demonstrated the essence of the fast game, profiting from chaos by taking small, precise cuts while others were destroyed. She knew that when panic dominates, the crowd loses discipline, and that's when opportunity appears. She didn't try to call the bottom or make heroic bets. Quick in, quick out. Singles, not home runs. This is the fast game. Respecting velocity, knowing your tools, trusting your preparation. Her setups for the fast game are deceptively simple: flags, breakouts, volatility squeezes, but her execution is anything but casual. She reads order flow, like a chess player reads body language across the board. She can see when a breakout is genuine and when it's just bait. And because she's rehearsed these scenarios endlessly, her response is automatic. There's no panic, no overthinking, just execution. But the fast game isn't just about speed. It's about emotional containment. The danger of short-term trading is the adrenaline it pumps into your system. Every small win feels like a rush. Every loss feels like a personal insult. Linda treats both the same, as one move in a longer game. If a trade fails, she's out instantly. If it works, she takes her profit without the greed to let it ride past her target. That restraint is what keeps her alive in a domain where most blow up. Most traders chase breakouts out of fear of missing the move, fear of being left behind. That's the penalty for letting emotion dictate your speed. Linda's short-term edge works because her pace is never emotional. It's tactical. She moves fast, but she moves with purpose. Here's something she tells her students that changes everything. In the fast game, you're not trading the market. You're trading the pattern within the market. And to see those patterns clearly, you need eyes trained by thousands of hours of observation. Move. 4. Read the patterns that others miss. Linda Raschke sees what most traders miss, not because she's gifted with supernatural vision, but because she's put in more hours staring at charts than most traders will in a lifetime. Pattern recognition, for her, isn't about memorizing shapes. It's about understanding the underlying behavior those shapes represent. Every flag, wedge, or coil is just a visible echo of traders' decisions: fear compressing price, greed pushing it out, indecision stalling the move. One of her most valuable lessons comes from 1994, trading cotton futures. The market had been in a lull, moving sideways in what looked like an endless grind. Most traders were bored or impatient, either forcing trades that weren't there or walking away entirely. But Linda was watching something else, a subtle contraction of volatility, the kind that often precedes explosive movement. The daily range had compressed from $2.50 to $0.80 over 7 sessions, with volume dropping 40% each day. The market was holding its breath. Days later, the market snapped. Volume surged, price broke out, and what looked like random chops suddenly made sense. It was the tension before the release. Linda was already in position. She didn't need to chase. She had recognized the pattern in advance, placed her piece on the right square, and simply let the market reveal the move. Her approach to pattern recognition is disciplined. She keeps a core library of high-probability setups and ignores everything else. This focus allows her to respond instantly when one of her patterns appears, rather than hesitating or doubting. To her, patterns are not magical predictions. They are probabilities in motion. The market doesn't have to follow through, but when it does, she's there, prepared to capitalize. Here's where many traders stumble. They treat patterns like religious symbols, assuming every breakout must run, every head and shoulders must collapse. Linda avoids this trap by always anchoring her pattern recognition in context. What's the broader trend? What's volatility like? Are institutions active? The same pattern in 2 different environments can have opposite outcomes, and she trains herself to see those nuances. The trader who jumps into a setup just because it looked like the textbook said it should, only to watch it fake out, that's the cost of trading patterns in isolation from context. Linda's edge here is her ability to blend the micro, the specific pattern, with the macro, the market's larger conditions. Quick pause here. Think about your last 3 trades. How many were based on patterns you truly understood versus shapes that just looked right? If you're honest and the answer is concerning, the next move will change how you see every tool on your screen. Move. 5. Use indicators as filters, never as crutches. If you scroll through most traders' charts, you'll see the same story. A cluttered mess of indicators layered on top of each other until price is barely visible. It's a safety blanket, a desperate attempt to make the market easier by stacking confirmation upon confirmation. Linda Raschke has no patience for that. To her, indicators are tools, not talismans. They exist to filter noise, not to make decisions for you. Her charts are clean. Just the essentials. A few moving averages to define bias, an oscillator to sense overextension, maybe a volatility measure to anticipate expansion or contraction. That's it. Each one has a specific job, like a specialized piece on a chessboard. She doesn't ask a bishop to move like a rook, and she doesn't ask her indicators to do more than they were designed for. She learned early that relying on indicators as decision makers creates dangerous dependencies. When you outsource judgment to a formula, you stop developing the instincts needed to survive in the market's chaos. The indicator becomes a crutch, and when it fails, as they all sometimes do, you have nothing left to stand on. Linda flips this dynamic. She makes the decision first, then uses indicators to confirm or refine her entry and exit, not the other way around. One of her go-to filters is the ADX, the Average Directional Index. In trending markets, it helps her confirm when a breakout is backed by genuine strength. In choppy conditions, it warns her to stay out of trades where momentum is weak. But here's the key. She never uses it in isolation. It's always paired with her read of price action and the broader market context. The indicator is the supporting actor, never the star. Linda once said something that stuck with her students. If you need 5 indicators to take a trade, you don't have a trade. You have doubt dressed up as analysis. That's brutal, but it's true. The best setups are obvious with minimal tools. The more confirmation you need, the less conviction you actually have. Her philosophy is simple. Price is the language of the market. Indicators are translations. Sometimes they clarify the message, sometimes they distort it. Your job is to know which is which. And once you've filtered the signal from the noise, the real test begins. Protecting your capital when the trade goes live. Because without defense, even the best offense means nothing. Move. 6. Shield your king at all costs. In chess, you can lose a queen, a rook, even most of your pawns and still find a way to win. But lose your king and the game is over. In trading, your capital is your king. Without it, you're finished. Linda Raschke treats risk management as the shield that keeps her king alive, always positioned, always ready, never lowered for even a second. She doesn't romanticize risk. To her, it's not an abstract concept or a number buried in a spreadsheet. Risk is real, tangible, and personal. It's the difference between surviving to trade another day or being forced out of the game entirely. This perspective comes from scars, trades that went against her, days where the market didn't just reject her position, but crushed it. Those moments didn't teach her to fear the market. They taught her to respect it. Her first rule is simple. Never let one trade have the power to knock you out. That means predefined stops before entry, never adjusted to give it more room once the trade is live. If the stop gets hit, she's out. No negotiation, no second guessing. The decision was made before the trade, when her mind was clear and unclouded by hope or fear. Position sizing is the second layer of her shield. She doesn't size up because she feels confident. She sizes up because volatility, probability, and her playbook align. If the board is dangerous, wild swings, low liquidity, she scales down. If conditions are clean, she'll press a bit harder, but never recklessly. It's controlled aggression, never blind attack. Here's a story that captures her approach perfectly. During a particularly volatile period in the late 1990s, she watched a fellow trader turn $50,000 into $400,000 in 3 months. Impressive, right? 2 weeks later, he was down to $30,000. One oversized position, one stop, he adjusted mid-trade, one moment of greed, game over. Linda's account during the same period, steady growth, no dramatic swings, and most importantly, she was still trading when he wasn't. The moment you break your own stop-loss rule, hoping for mercy from the market, that's the slippery slope she refuses to step onto. For Linda, the stop isn't a suggestion. It's the line between staying in the match and being checkmated. And once your king is shielded, the real work of sharpening your blade can begin, long before the first bell rings. That's where the daily routine becomes your secret weapon, the invisible preparation that separates professionals from gamblers. Move 7. Sharpen your mind with daily rituals. Linda Raschke doesn't start her trading day when the opening bell rings. Her game begins hours earlier, in the quiet before the storm, when most traders are still asleep or scrolling headlines without focus. She knows that discipline in execution begins with discipline in preparation, and her daily routine is as much a weapon as any chart pattern or indicator in her arsenal. Each morning, she runs through a mental checklist. First, she reviews the overnight markets, global indices, commodities, currencies, to sense the broader mood. This isn't idle curiosity. It's reconnaissance. Like a chess master studying her opponent's recent games, she's looking for clues in the pre-market moves, subtle hints about the likely tempo of the day. Then she marks her key levels, prior day highs and lows, important support and resistance zones, volatility bands. These are her squares of interest on the chessboard, the places where battles are most likely to break out. Before the market opens, she runs through scenarios in her head. If price opens above this level, what's my plan? If it breaks below that zone, how do I respond? By rehearsing possible moves in advance, she reduces hesitation when the board shifts unexpectedly. In the heat of the moment, she's not inventing strategies on the fly. She's executing pre-planned responses. But her routine isn't just technical. She manages her energy like an athlete. Trading is mentally exhausting, and fatigue can turn even the sharpest mind into a liability. So, she schedules breaks, keeps hydrated, and limits distractions. She understands that her brain is the real execution platform. If it's sluggish, her edge evaporates. At the end of each day, she closes the loop with a post-market review. Every trade is logged: entry, exit, context, emotional state. Wins aren't celebrated blindly. Losses aren't ignored. She studies them both with the same curiosity, looking for patterns in her decision-making. Did she follow her plan? Was she reactive or proactive? Were her best trades in alignment with her setups, or were they accidents of timing? Most traders enter trades without even checking the broader trend, then wonder why they keep getting stopped out. That's the kind of mistake Linda's routine eliminates. Preparation builds awareness, and awareness keeps you from playing impulsive moves on the board. But no matter how perfect your routine, the market will eventually throw you a curveball. The formations will shift, the tempo will change, and what worked yesterday will fail today. That's when you need the next critical move, the ability to adapt without abandoning your core principles. Move 8. Adapt your formation when the storm shifts. Markets don't just move, they transform. One week they reward trend following with smooth directional moves. The next, they whipsaw between false breakouts, punishing anyone stubborn enough to stick to a single style. Linda Raschke's longevity in the game comes down to this. She refuses to marry any one approach. She changes her formation when the storm changes direction. During the 2008 to 2009 financial crisis, volatility didn't just spike, it went feral. Moves that would normally take weeks happened in hours. Trends broke down without warning. Reversals came hard and fast, and the market seemed almost manic in its mood swings. Many traders clung to their old strategies like lifeboats, only to watch them sink. Linda didn't. She shifted from a primarily trend-following posture to a mean reversion style, recognizing that the market's exaggerated moves were offering quick opportunities in the opposite direction. She likens it to rearranging your pieces in chess when your opponent suddenly attacks from a new angle. You can't keep your rooks in their original files if the threat is coming diagonally. You reposition, you defend, and you prepare to counterattack when the time is right. In trading, that means altering your setups, adjusting position sizes, and redefining profit targets to suit the market's new tempo. This adaptability isn't improvisation, it's calculated flexibility. She still works from a playbook, but it's a modular one. Each module is a strategy designed for a different volatility regime. Low volatility, trending conditions. She knows which patterns to deploy. High volatility chop. She has a different set. When the environment changes, she swaps the module without hesitation. The biggest enemy to adaptability is ego. Traders want to believe they've figured out the market, that their system is invincible. Linda treats that belief like a ticking time bomb. The moment you think your method works in all conditions is the moment the market will humble you. She keeps her ego in check by letting the market dictate her style, not the other way around. There's a phrase she uses with her students: the market doesn't care about your favorite setup. It's harsh but liberating. Once you accept that your preferences are irrelevant, you're free to adapt to what's actually happening rather than what you wish was happening. But even perfect adaptation means nothing if you can't control yourself. The market might be chaos, but the real battlefield is in your mind. And that's where Linda's next move, turning emotions into data and discipline into instinct, becomes the difference between surviving and thriving. Move 9, turn your emotions into weapons through discipline. Linda Raschke keeps a trading journal, but not the kind filled only with entry prices and exit points. Her journal is a mirror, one that reflects not just what she did in the market, but why she did it, and what she felt in the process. Because she knows that the greatest blind spot a trader has isn't the market's next move. It's their own behavior in real time. Every trade she takes is recorded with ruthless honesty. Did she follow her setup? Did she hesitate? Did she chase? More importantly, What was her emotional state before, during, and after the trade? She treats these notes like a chess player reviewing past games, searching not only for tactical errors, but also for moments where emotion, not logic, dictated the move. Over time, patterns emerge, not in the market, but in herself. Maybe she's more prone to overtrading after a win streak, or to cutting profits too quickly after a big loss. By seeing these tendencies written down, she can anticipate them before they take control. She discovered something fascinating. Her worst trades often came on Mondays after profitable Fridays. The weekend would give her time to replay the wins, inflating confidence just enough to make her sloppy. Once she saw this pattern in black and white, she adjusted. Stricter rules on Mondays, smaller positions until she proved she was thinking clearly. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need a system for reinforcing the right habits until they become automatic. That's where her discipline loop comes in, an unbreakable cycle that trains precision until it's instinct. Her discipline loop is built on 3 phases: prepare, execute, review. Prepare is the groundwork, mapping levels, defining setups, and running through scenarios before the market opens. Execute is the moment-to-moment gameplay, taking only trades that fit the plan, managing them according to preset rules, and never bending stops or targets once the trade is live. Review is the self-audit at the end of the day. Every trade evaluated, every deviation from the plan noted, every emotional trigger identified. This loop isn't casual. It's the same cycle repeated daily, without exception. Over time, it forges muscle memory. She doesn't have to think twice about cutting a losing trade. Her hand just clicks out. She doesn't chase a breakout without confirmation because the loop has taught her that impulse entries don't belong on the board. She tells a story about a student who couldn't stop moving his stops. Every time a trade went against him, he'd adjust, give it more room, and usually turn a small loss into a disaster. Linda had him practice with a demo account, but with one rule: stops were locked in stone. For 3 months, he couldn't touch them, no matter what. At first, it was torture. By month 2, it was uncomfortable. By month 3, it was automatic. When he returned to live trading, the habit was so ingrained that moving stops felt wrong. The paradox is beautiful. Being hyper-aware of your flaws doesn't weaken you. It makes you dangerous. Because now, you're not just playing against the market. You're playing against a version of yourself that's been outmaneuvered in the past. The mirror shows you who you are, and the machine trains you to be better. Pause for a moment. If you had to write down your emotional state for your last 5 trades, what patterns would emerge? And once you've identified them, how will you deploy your capital to exploit your strengths and protect against your weaknesses? Move 10. Deploy your forces with surgical precision. In chess, you don't send your entire army charging forward on the first move. You advance the right pieces at the right time. Linda Raschke treats position sizing the same way. Every trade is a battle, but not every battle deserves the same number of troops. Deploy too many on a low-quality setup, and you risk crippling your forces. Deploy too few on a high-probability opportunity, and you waste the chance to press your advantage. Her sizing decisions begin before the trade exists. Volatility, market context, and setup quality dictate how much she's willing to commit. If the board is messy, overlapping ranges, low conviction moves, she scales down to minimal exposure, protecting her capital for a clearer opportunity. If conditions are clean, the trend is defined, and the pattern aligns with her playbook, she'll increase her size, but never beyond the point where a single loss can cause real damage. This isn't just math, it's psychology. Larger positions amplify every emotional response. The same chart that looks clear with 1 contract can feel like a minefield with 10. Linda knows her own emotional thresholds, and she sizes to stay within them. Too much size can push even the most disciplined trader into fear-driven mistakes, moving stops, taking premature profits, hesitating at the wrong moment. Her method is dynamic. Position size changes with the market's rhythm. In trending conditions, she might press harder, adding to winners with trailing stops. In choppy markets, she goes small, focusing on survival rather than growth. This flexibility ensures she's never overextended when the storm suddenly shifts direction. She learned this lesson the hard way in the early 1990s. After a string of wins, she got aggressive, tripling her normal size on what looked like a sure-thing setup. The trade reversed violently, and what should have been a 2% loss became a 7% disaster. The financial hit hurt, but the psychological damage was worse. It took weeks to regain her confidence. Now, she has a simple rule. Position size is determined by math, not emotion. The formula considers account size, volatility, and stop distance. By treating capital as a finite army, she ensures she always has enough forces left for the next opportunity, and inevitably, there will be losses. But with controlled sizing, those losses become scratches, not mortal wounds. Which brings us to the crucial skill of bouncing back when the market hands you defeat. Move 11. Recover from defeat without losing your edge. Losses are inevitable. Even the most seasoned trader will face strings of red days, trades that go sour for reasons both controllable and not. What separates survivors from casualties is how they respond to those defeats. Linda Raschke has a method for recovery that keeps her from spiraling, a process forged through decades of navigating both brutal markets and her own human reactions to them. She recalls a 3-week period early in her career where nothing seemed to work. Setups that had been reliable for months suddenly failed. Breakouts reversed instantly. Mean reversion trades refused to bounce. By the end of the second week, she wasn't just losing money, she was losing clarity. The urge to make it back grew louder each day, whispering that one big win could erase the pain. That whisper, she knew, was the most dangerous voice in trading. Instead of pressing harder, she pulled back. She reduced position size to a fraction of her normal risk. She became hyper-selective, taking only the cleanest setups, often skipping days entirely if the board looked sloppy. This wasn't retreat, it was strategic defense. In chess, when you're down material, you don't start making wild, desperate attacks. You consolidate, protect your remaining pieces, and look for counterplay when the moment is right. She also doubles down on her review process during drawdowns. Every trade is dissected not just for technical merit, but for emotional triggers. Was she forcing trades out of boredom? Was she ignoring market context because she wanted to win back quickly? The answers, written in her journal, often reveal patterns of self-sabotage invisible in the heat of battle. Linda has a saying she shares with struggling traders. The market will still be there tomorrow, but only if you are too. It's a reminder that preservation during bad stretches matters more than heroic comebacks. The traders who blow up trying to recover in a day are forgotten. The ones who scale back, regroup, and return with clarity, they're the ones still playing years later. And here's the truth. Recovery isn't just about getting back to break even, it's about rebuilding confidence without inflating ego. Linda's goal after a losing streak isn't to win big, but to re-establish rhythm and trust in her process. She knows that the market will eventually present opportunities where she can press harder again, but only if she's still in the game to take them. Once the bleeding stops and composure returns, she's ready to leverage her greatest strength, the specialized knowledge that comes from mastering a few setups so deeply they become extensions of herself. Move 12. Specialize until mastery becomes instinct. In a world where traders chase every shiny setup, every new indicator, every can't-miss strategy they see online, Linda Raschke stands in stark contrast. She's a specialist. She doesn't try to master everything. She masters what matters to her, and then she works those setups until they're as natural as breathing. Her trading arsenal isn't a vast library of complex systems. It's a small collection of signature setups she's refined over decades, patterns she knows inside out, not just in appearance but in behavior. She knows how they perform in trending markets, in chop, in high and low volatility. She knows their failure modes, their nuances, their ideal time frames. This intimacy with her chosen setups gives her a speed and confidence most traders never reach. In chess, a grandmaster doesn't memorize every possible opening. They specialize in a few, learning them so deeply they can anticipate the opponent's counter moves 5 steps ahead. Linda treats trading the same way. By narrowing her focus, she avoids the constant second-guessing that plagues traders who are always jumping between strategies. There's no debate in her mind about whether a setup is valid. She's seen it thousands of times and knows exactly what to do when it appears. The temptation to diversify for its own sake is strong, especially after a losing streak. Many traders think adding more strategies will balance their results. Linda sees that as dilution. Every new method added to the mix is one more thing to monitor, one more source of confusion, one more way to erode execution quality. She'd rather trade one A+ setup perfectly than juggle 5 mediocre ones. She tells her students about watching a trader who knew 20 different patterns but couldn't execute any of them cleanly. When a setup appeared, he'd hesitate, wondering if this one really counted, if maybe another pattern was better, if he should wait. By the time he decided, the opportunity was gone. Meanwhile, Linda would see her 1 or 2 specialized setups and strike without hesitation. Guess who was profitable? Look at your own trading honestly. How many setups are you trying to master? If it's more than 3 or 4, you're probably spreading yourself too thin. Specialization eliminates hesitation. When you know your playbook inside out, you either take the trade or you don't. No gray area, no doubt. And there's another benefit. Specialization frees mental bandwidth. When your execution process is second nature, you can devote more energy to the highest level of the game, seeing tomorrow's moves today, and building a mindset that outlasts any single trade, any single year, any single market cycle. Move 13, play the infinite game. Before the market opens, Linda Raschke often closes her eyes and runs through trades that haven't happened yet. Not in a vague, daydreaming way, but as vividly as a pilot running through a pre-flight checklist, or a chess master visualizing the next 10 moves. This is her mental rehearsal, the invisible training that allows her to act without hesitation when the market throws something unexpected at her. She pictures the board, her key levels marked, volatility conditions defined, possible scenarios mapped out. What if the market gaps above resistance and holds? She visualizes the entry, the stop placement, the target. What if it fakes out and collapses? She rehearses cutting the trade immediately, flipping bias if necessary. These aren't fantasies. They're simulations rooted in actual patterns she's seen hundreds of times. There's neuroscience behind this. Studies show that mental rehearsal activates the same neural pathways as physical practice. Athletes have known this for decades, visualizing the perfect shot, the perfect swing, the perfect race. Linda applies it to trading. By the time she clicks the mouse, her brain has already executed the trade successfully, multiple times. And this practice, this daily mental preparation, is what's kept her in the game for decades. Because in chess, the endgame is where every decision echoes louder. There's less room for error, fewer pieces to hide behind, and each move carries amplified weight. For Linda Raschke, the trading endgame isn't about a single trade, or even a single year. It's about the decades-long arc of staying in the game, evolving and refining her craft until her precision feels effortless. Her legacy isn't a secret indicator or a hidden formula. It's a mindset. The board will always change, patterns morph, volatility cycles shift, technology reshapes the landscape, but the principles endure. Discipline isn't negotiable, risk management isn't optional, adaptability isn't a nice to have. These are the non-negotiables she's carried from her earliest pit trading days to today's algorithm-driven markets. What makes her a technical tactician isn't just her chart reading, it's her orchestration of every piece in her game. Her setups are clean, her tools are precise, her size is calculated, and her psychological game is relentless. She doesn't need to be right all the time. She needs to play the right moves at the right moments and protect her king long enough for the next opportunity to arise. Linda once said something that captures her entire philosophy. I'm not trying to beat the market. I'm trying to outlast it. That shift in perspective changes everything. When you stop trying to conquer and start trying to survive and thrive, the game becomes sustainable. You stop taking unnecessary risks. You stop forcing trades. You stop treating every day like it's your last chance to make money. Traders who watch her work often think she's calm because she's certain. The truth? She's calm because she's prepared. She knows she can't control the storm, but she can control her moves on the board. That control is her freedom. It keeps her from chasing, from forcing, from spiraling after losses. In the end, her edge isn't in outsmarting the market. It's in outlasting it. The storm will rage tomorrow, next month, next year. The board will still be there, waiting, but only for those who've learned to move with precision, protect their capital, and adapt when the wind changes. The 13 moves you've just learned aren't just Linda's. They can be yours, but knowing them and living them are two different games entirely. The question is, which game are you ready to play? Master your own board. You've just walked through 13 moves of Linda Raschke's game, 13 pieces of an edge that's been forged in the chaos of real markets, tested by storms that have broken countless traders. From embracing the storm and mastering the board, to defending your capital like a king, to shifting formations when volatility changes, to turning discipline into muscle memory through relentless practice. This is more than a strategy. It's a blueprint for survival. Now here's the question that matters. Are you playing the market or are you just reacting to it? Are your moves deliberate or are you still letting the storm toss you from trade to trade? Because the truth is, you already have a board in front of you. Your capital, your tools, your setups, your habits. The only question is whether you'll take control of it before the market makes the move for you. If even one of these 13 moves hit you differently, if something clicked that hadn't before, then you have a choice. Let it fade into another good idea you forget tomorrow, or act on it tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight. Here's your first move, and I want you to commit to it right now. Write down your last 3 losing trades. Not the prices or the charts. Write down what you felt. Were you angry, desperate, overconfident? Did you break your own rules? Did you move your stop? Did you revenge trade? Be brutally honest. This is your mirror, and until you look into it, you're playing blind. Then tomorrow, before the market opens, choose one thing, just one, from Linda's playbook to implement. Maybe it's setting your stops in stone. Maybe it's reducing position size. Maybe it's waiting for your A+ setup instead of taking B- trades. One thing, master that, then add another. I want to know which of Linda's 13 moves hit you the hardest. Which one exposed a weakness you've been avoiding? Which one could transform your trading if you actually committed to it? Drop it in the comments, not just the number, but why it matters to you. Your insight might be exactly what another trader needs to hear to survive their next storm. Remember this, and remember it well. Markets will always be chaos. The storm will never stop. But the board is yours. Every day you choose how to play it. You choose whether to protect your king or gamble it away. You choose whether to adapt or stay rigid. You choose whether to learn from defeat or let it define you. As long as you can see the patterns, protect your capital, and keep making precise moves, you'll still be here tomorrow, ready for the next game. Because in the end, trading isn't about winning every battle. It's about staying in the war. The board is set. The pieces are in position. Your move.